Hello everyone, and welcome back to episode 6 of my series where I create my own indie game. If you're new to the channel, this game is going to be an open world RPG inspired by titles like Hypixel Skyblock and Stardew Valley. But honestly, the best way to catch up is to check out my previous videos where I show how the game started and everything I've added so far. Last time, I created a start menu that loads when the player boots up the game. But when you press start, the game would always load you in as a brand new character, and every time you exited, all progress was lost. So I had to implement a function that allows players to save their progress and reload it the next time they play. You might be wondering, how does it actually work? It's surprisingly straightforward. Basically, you just take whatever information you want to keep and write it into a file. Then, when you load the game, you read that file and set the relevant variables so they match the last session. In Godot, there are two main ways to handle this. You can either use a JSON file or Godot's built-in resource system. I chose to go with Godot's custom resources, but to be honest, there's not a huge difference between the two. Here you can see the data I'm currently saving. It's not too much. Just a few things like the player's levels, inventory, position, and completed quests. And when we open the save file, we can see everything being stored. The base stats, experience levels, the inventory, including slots, and what item they contain, and how many of those items. That's the info the game reads when loading back in, and that's how I got the save and load system to work. In the last video, I also mentioned that I wanted to create a quest given by the miner, this character we designed last time. One that the player has to complete before they can buy or sell anything in his shop. Since it was my first time making a quest, I kept it pretty simple, to learn and understand the basics. The task was to collect 3 gold ores and bring them back to the miner. Let me just show you. I walk up to the miner, accept his quest, go to the cave, mine 3 pieces of gold, and then return to complete it. By the way, for these dialogue pop-ups, I'm using a plugin called Dialogic. It looks like this and allows me to structure conversations easily between characters. I can also include dialogue choices for the players, which adds some depth. Sure, the quest is very basic, but the core mechanics are there. You accept the quest, complete the task, and then claim the reward. And the cool part is that the system is easily expandable for more complex and interesting quests in the future. At this point, I started getting frustrated with the way I had set up the inventory and equipment slots in my previous videos. Previously, if you wanted to switch from an axe to a pickaxe, you had to open your inventory and manually swap in and out of the weapon slot. It really slowed down the flow of the gameplay. So I scrapped the weapon slot entirely and added a small hotbar with 5 slots. Now you can simply press the corresponding number key to select a slot and instantly use the item assigned to it. This made switching between tools way more intuitive and keeps gameplay smooth. While I was working on tools, I also added a durability bar. It decreases as you use tools, giving players a reason to upgrade and buy better versions, like the new pickaxe you can now get from the miner. Next up was the furnace. You might have already noticed it in the last clip. This was my first attempt at making a smelting system. The design was simple, 3 slots, one for fuel, one for input, and one for output. So if you throw in gold ore and some wood as fuel, you'll get gold ingots in return. Once I had the basic mechanics working, I wanted to make it look more polished, so I worked on a new design. I added golden borders around the slots to show clearly where items go, and some animated cogwheels that turn while it's smelting. It adds a nice touch of life to it. And while I was on a roll with visuals, I added a few other minor touches to improve the overall look and feel of the game. Now, all objects cast small shadows, the furnace emits smoke when it's running, and I even added dust particles that trail behind the player while walking. Here's a side-by-side comparison of before and after these effects. And I think you'll agree, it just looks a lot more dynamic and polished now. Well, that's it for this episode. I feel like I made some solid progress and added some really cool new features to the game. If you enjoyed this week's update, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And as always, if you have any feedback, whether for the game or these videos, drop it in the comments. It really helps me out and keeps me motivated. Have a great week, and until next time.